Here is the blanket all laid out how I designed it. The only thing is this blanket is, the squares are diagonal. I've never done a granny square blanket like this before, so I was having a hard time figuring out how I'm going to connect everything. Because, you could do all the rows going this way, but then you'd also have to come back and do all the rows going this way. And I like to connect my squares on the hook. I don't really like to use the tapestry needle. So I've been trying to sit here and think about how I'm going to connect all of these. And I think the way I'm going to do it is basically just going like this all the way to the end, and then taking this next row here and basically going back and connecting them all that way again, which I'll show you if it works out. But if you were curious, here is how I designed the blanket. The H's stand for half squares and the W's are whole squares. My numbers are a little messed up here, but if you want, you can pause this and you can count everything out if you're wondering. Basically, it's just a little mountain blanket. I'm making this blanket for my friend who's having a baby boy and wanted a mountain theme, so I'm making this little mountain blanket. But let's go ahead and try to figure out how to connect these. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, when connecting these light blue squares, which is, the sky, I'm going to use the light blue. And when I'm connecting the dark blues, I'll use the dark blue. So what my plan is, I know you guys are a little at a weird angle. This is the top row of my blanket. This is the whole top row of the half light blue squares. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just this top row, so if I separate these out, just this top row, I'm going to go through and single crochet around these edges. I'm not sure what I'm going to do at these corners here yet, but we will figure it out together. Basically, I'm going to put a single crochet connecting this whole row together this way. Okay, so I went ahead and moved my first row of triangle pieces to my desk so that we can try to, just single crochet them a little bit easier. I am personally using a 6mm needle. It's just what I prefer, but if you'd like to use a smaller needle to make your connections a little tighter, feel free to do that. All right. So we're going to crochet, we're going to take this first triangle, and we're going to crochet, single crochet this way, okay? So I've got my corner, so I've got my blue yarn, just make sure you guys can see this. I'm gonna pull my yarn through, and then I'm just going to, as I call it, slip stitch. I'm just gonna do a slip stitch, but in that same hole that I just went through, I'm still gonna do that single crochet. Okay, and then I'm gonna continue down this line, and then I'm gonna flip and go down this line, okay? So we'll just do that. Okay, I will meet you guys at the end of this half square. Okay, I've finished this whole half right here. I just did the peak, and now I'm going to go back down this other side. Okay. As you can see now, I have done this single crochet all around the border, but next we have to do the same to this one while connecting them together. So I think I found out the way I'm going to connect these two together. Basically, after I finish all my single crochets on this triangle, I'm going to go into the corner stitch of this next triangle, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slip through that triangle and then slip through that next triangle, so they're basically slip stitched together. But then what I'm going to do is go into that same stitch on the new triangle and do that single crochet. It looks a little wonky there, but I think once we then go into the next stitch and do the single crochet, next stitch, come back out, single crochet. Basically what you're seeing is now we have connected these triangles together, but now I'm also creating these single crochets down this side, and then I'm going to go up this side again. Okay, now you can see I've finished my single crochet on the second triangle. We're all connected up here. Now we have to connect another triangle. And so I know we just went over that here, but I'm going to go over it one more time, and then we can finish out the entire row off camera, and we'll come back whenever we're going to start connecting the second row to this first row. We're going to try to find the corner stitch of this. It's actually a little difficult and annoying, but you know, just use your best judgment. Once you found your corner stitch, what we're going to do again is we're going to slip stitch that in. So grab your yarn, go through that first triangle stitch, and you see we still have this triangle stitch on our hook. So then we're also going to pull that yarn through that triangle. Now the corner stitch on this new triangle that you just went through, we're going to go into that same stitch again, and you're going to do your single crochet, and then you're going to find that next stitch and single crochet all the way down and back up. Okay, and now I've finished my third connecting triangle. So go ahead and finish with the rest of your squares. If you're following my pattern, you'll have 5 squares left to connect. So finish connecting all the rest of your triangles, and then once you finish, we'll come back and we will start connecting our first row of triangles to our next row. Okay, so I have finished with this whole first row. This is where I ended. As you can see, all of them are nice and attached together. And then now what we're gonna do, this is already single crocheted, right? We're gonna attach it, you know, this side to this side, this side to this side. I think you guys get the point. So this was our first row triangles where we left off, and we're connecting it now to the second row. So, you know, we're going to be connecting this side to this side, this side to this side, this side to this side. But I'm going to show you how we're going to connect them. As you can see, I practiced a little bit because I didn't really know for sure how I was going to do this. But what we're going to do is, you see, you still have this continuation thread from this triangle. I'm going to keep that on the hook. What we're going to do is we're going to connect this corner to this corner. So I'm going to find this corner thread here. I'm going to stick the hook in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the working yarn, pull it through that new triangle corner thread, right? And I'm going to do single crochet. But here's where it gets a little bit tricky. This loop that's on here, you want to kind of pull it a little bit so you don't lose it, right? You go back to this first row triangle. I still have this loop here. What you're gonna do, let me see if I can zoom in, is once you do that, you're gonna look for this next thread here. You see this next single crochet thread right here? Stick the needle through that. Take this working yarn loop, put it around the hook, tighten it. And what you're gonna do is, you see you have that single crochet and you have the working yarn here. You're gonna pull that working yarn loop through that single crochet on this first triangle. So now we go to the new triangle. We go to the next thread. You're gonna pull the working yarn through, make that single crochet, right? Pull your working yarn into a loop. Go to this triangle from the first row, the one that we did the single crochets on. You're gonna find that next single crochet right here. Stick your hook through, grab this working yarn loop, put it on the hook, right? I like to hold it down with my thumb while I tighten, see? While I tighten the working yarn so that it's tight on there now. So you have the working yarn and the single crochet from this first triangle. You're gonna pull the working yarn through that single crochet. Go to this new triangle, find the next stitch, which is this one right here, right? So I'm gonna put my hook through that, grab the working yarn, pull it through, make that single crochet, pull the yarn loose, find the next stitch on the first triangle, stick the hook through that stitch, take the working yarn loop, put it around, pull it tight. You have the working yarn here and the single crochet here from the first triangle. Pull that through. We'll do a few more. Go to the second triangle, find the next stitch, which is right here. I'm going to stick my hook through that next stitch, oops. You want to make sure your working yarn is kind of going up so you don't get it wrapped around. But anyway, stick the hook through that next stitch, pull it through, make that single crochet, pull the working yarn, go to this triangle, find that next single crochet, stick the hook through, take the working yarn, put it on your hook, tighten it, working yarn, single crochet, pull the yarn through. Go to the second triangle, find this next stitch, stick it through, single crochet, pull, find the single crochet on this one, tighten, pull through. Just to show you what this is doing, this is that first row of triangles that we all, connected together, right? And this is that piece of the second row here that we're connecting. Here's what we've been working on. As you can see, this is our connecting stitch that's going to go all the way here till these points get connected. And then this point will get connected here, and we're going to continue this same connecting stitch down this way until we reach here. I'll show you some of my work, but once I get to this point, I'll come back in. Okay, here's what we're working with so far. This is all that we've connected right here, but what we've come to is the tips here. So the way that my triangles work is the tip is 2 stitches. So what I'm going to do is, here's my 2 stitches on this one. On this side, I'm going to connect it to this side of this one so that they're like this. So I'm going to do that now. These corner stitches are a little tricky. Alright. Now I'm going to do that single crochet, pull my yarn out, and connect it to this point here, like that. Now this first row triangle here is fully connected to this second row triangle right through here. The next square that is going to get attached is this one. So what I'm going to have to do is, like I said, my corner pieces, my corner pieces and the point pieces of my triangle are 2 stitches, as you can see. One is here and one is here. So the corner piece that's closest to this point piece on this triangle is what's going to get connected, because like I said, there was 2 points to the triangle, and what we connected here was the points that were closest to each other, and then what we're going to do here are the points that are closest to each other on the corners. I really hope that makes sense. This is my first time making a video like this. So I'm not very good at explaining it yet, but I will try to show you right now. So I'm going to find this corner stitch here that is, for this corner specifically, it's the right hand side one. Here's the left hand side, here's the right hand side one, but the right hand side one is what's closest to the left hand side one of this triangle. So I'm going to stick my needle through. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that same single crochet, pull the yarn loose, find the other half, the left hand side point piece of this triangle, which is, right here. I'm going to put my hook through, take the loop of the working yarn, pull it tight, working yarn, single crochet, pull through. So now it looks kind of loose, but once we start connecting, pieces here, these corners will become tighter, but you can always go back and make it tighter if you want. So now we are finally done working on this triangle. We're now going to be still working on this first triangle, but this square. So I'm gonna zoom out a little bit and show you some of that work. Okay, so here's where we're at. We went ahead and did all down this side with this square and this first triangle. But where we're at now is, you see on this square we've got this right hand side corner stitch and this left hand side corner stitch. So this is our corner right here, but you've got this right hand side stitch and this left hand side stitch. And then on this connection, the connection of the two triangles, as you can see, right hand side stitch, left hand side stitch. So what we're gonna do is this right hand side on this one on this square is gonna get connected to this right hand side one, and this left hand side one is gonna get connected to this left hand side one. Okay, and then once we finish connecting those corners together, then we're gonna go do the same exact thing up this side. Going into this right hand side corner stitch, doing your single crochet, pulling the working yarn loose, going into this right hand side corner stitch right here, looping the yarn in, pulling it tight, and pulling through, just like that. Okay, now we're on the left hand side corner stitches. So let me just, yep, it's right here. Put that on the hook. Alright, we got the squares left hand side corner stitch on. So we're going to go ahead and do our single crochet. Pull the working yarn loose. Now go into this left hand side corner stitch for the triangles. Put the working yarn back on, pull it tight, and pull through. Now let me just take the hook out. So now, as you can see, our corners are perfectly aligned here and stitched together. And now the same thing we did on these, we're gonna do up this side. Okay, so here's where we are now. We've done, and then up this side. We come to another corner again, so I'm just going to try to talk through that one more time. But here's the next square we will be adding. Here's my working yarn. So, like we went over down here, this square's corner has a left thread and a right thread. Left and right. Now in this case, the left hand stitch is the closest to the right hand corner stitch of this triangle. Here's the right hand stitch for the peak, and here is the left hand stitch for the peak. So we're going to connect this left hand corner stitch to this right hand side peak stitch of the triangle, and we will do that now. Insert into this left hand side corner stitch, it's a little tight. Do our single crochet, right, and into the right hand side peak stitch of this triangle. Like that. Pull my hook out. Just like that. And now, going in to connect this brand new square, right here on this corner, you've got your left and your right. And in this case, the right is the closest to the left peak stitch of this triangle, so they're going to go together like that. So we're going to stick our hook into this right hand side stitch on this new square. Okay, we are in the right hand side corner stitch of the square. We're going to do our single crochet, pull working yarn, and then we're going to go into this left hand side peak stitch of this triangle and pull the yarn through, just like that. So now the corners are all happily connected, and we're just going to go ahead and do this same exact thing down this edge. So now I've shown you guys how to connect the first row of triangles that we have to our second row. We're just going to keep doing that all the way till we get to the end, and then I will see you guys at the end of connecting the first and second rows. I wanted to show you guys something real quick, because if you're like me, when you're making your squares and you're just kind of going with the flow, and you're kind of like me where I'm too lazy to count my threads while I'm doing my squares, you may come across areas when you're connecting that don't line up numbers wise. Now what I mean by that is I have my 2 center threads here that I use to connect to the corners on. But before I get to these center threads, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 threads on this triangle left. And then on this square, here are my 2 corner threads, and before that corner thread I have only 2 threads left. So what you can do is you go into these 2 threads, still do your single crochet as normal, pull out, and what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna skip this next one and I'm gonna go into the second one. And I'm gonna pull that through. Alright, and then I'm gonna go into this next one, do my single crochet, and here's my center one, and I still have these 2, so I'm gonna skip this next one and go into this one that's next to the center one. And pull through. And even though you skipped some threads on this triangle here, you'd never be able to really see that, right? You can't tell. You can't even tell that I skipped threads there. So that's just a little trick that I like to do. I would never skip more than 2 threads in a row, or otherwise you'd probably be able to see it, you know, scrunched up or something. But if you just skip 1, maybe 2 threads, you really won't be able to tell. So just in case your numbers are off, don't panic. You know, just skip a thread or 2, and it'll most likely still look fine. No one will be able to tell. Okay, I have just completed connecting the second row in our blanket. As you can see, it's kind of elongated a little bit because we're adding all this, you know, all these extra threads. But here's where I left off. Now what we're gonna do is basically the same thing we did on the first row. We're gonna go down doing single crochets all along this edge until we get to the end, just like we did with the first row triangles. So I'm going to move this work over to the desk and we can start on that now. Okay, I've moved the first and second rows to my desk to continue. Here's our working yarn where we left off. And basically what we're going to do is the same thing as the first row, except notice this is going to be the side of the blanket. And so we're going to do single crochets all the way down the side, and then we're going to go up and down and up and down and up and down all the way across. So I finished single crocheting down this back part of the triangle, and now I'm working my way back up, and I'll show you how to connect these center pieces when we get there. So I just crocheted up this whole side of the triangle, and now we've gotten to the center point where we need to connect all these together. So on this triangle, we have our center point here, and this is the stitch that was not connected to this triangle, so we're going to be using this corner stitch. And if we go over to our square corner here, we have got this stitch right here that was not connected to this triangle for this corner stitch. So basically what we're trying to do is connect these 2 corners together, but if we just connect these 2 together, there's going to be a little hole right here, and we want it to be a little bit tighter than that. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect these 2 stitches together, also including this corner stitch from that first triangle. Okay, so I'll show you you guys that right now. We're going to pick up our working yarn, and we're going to come into this triangle corner stitch here. We still want a single crochet here, so we're going to do the single crochet. But then next, what we're going to do is we're going to pick up this thread right here from our first triangle onto our hook. So we're going to pick that up, and then we're going to pick up our corner stitch right here from our square. So we've picked up our middle thread from this triangle and our corner thread from this square, and what we're going to do, basically we're going to hook our working yarn and we're going to pull through this corner and this corner, and now again this corner. So basically we slip stitched all 3 of these corners together. But then what we're going to do after that is go back into this corner stitch from this square, just like we did with our first row triangles, back into that stitch, and we're going to do a single crochet. Alright, so this is what our corner looks like. It's a little bit more secure. You can still see a little hole here, but it's a lot more secure than it would be if we only did these 2 corners together and not this one as well. So what you want to do now is just continue to single crochet down this side as normal. So we're back at a corner again, and I just want to show you guys this one more time. So we have our corner thread right here for this square. We have this middle thread right here from this triangle, and then we have our corner thread right here for this square. So first what we're going to do is we're going to pick up this corner thread from the square that we're on right now, and we're gonna single crochet, then what we're gonna do is we're going to pick up this middle thread and then pick up our corner thread for our new for our new square. Just pick them up on your hook. The middle thread, there. And now remember, we're going to slip stitch through all 3 of these. Slip stitch through the square corner, through that middle triangle, and through our other square we're on now, just like that. And then we're going to go back into that same corner stitch from the new square we're about to start working on, the same stitch, and do a single crochet. Okay, and this is what our connection looks like. And then continue your single crochets down all the way, continue all of that all the way to the end of your row, and then I will meet you guys there. I have just finished doing the single crochet all the way down this second row. This is where I've ended, and now I'm going to start attaching the third row of squares just like I showed for the second row. But I will show you my work a little bit again just to remind you what it looks like, and then you're just going to repeat the whole process that we've done so far until you're all the way at the end of the blanket. And I will come back again once we get all the way to the end, and then I will show you how we're going to finish off this blanket. So I just got done attaching the very last row of squares or triangles, and when I finished connecting here and here, I'm doing the same thing I've done in all the other rows, and I'm going back and single crocheting all the way to the end of this bottom row. And then once I finish single crocheting this bottom row, I'm going to go up the entire right side of the blanket and single crochet, and then go across the entire upper edge of the blanket and single crochet until I reach the corner, till I get to this right hand edge and where it's already single crocheted from the connecting. But I just wanted to show you that when you get to like an edge of where two triangles meet, you're going to slip stitch these corners and then go back into this stitch and still do a single crochet, and I'm going to show you guys that. So now I'm going to single crochet into this corner stitch here. And then I'm going to find the corner stitch, which is right here. I'm going to go into that, and then I'm going to slip stitch over. Then I'm going to go into that same exact stitch I was just in and do a single crochet, just like that. And then I'll keep working down this bottom edge of this triangle, single crocheting until I get to another connection, and then I will keep slip stitching those triangle corners together. And then I'm going to go ahead and do what I said in the previous clip, where I'm going to single crochet across the whole bottom edge, right or left hand side edge, and then the top edge until I reach that corner connecting the upper edge and the right hand edge, and I will come back to you guys. So I have finished single crocheting along the bottom edge and along this left edge, and then I single crocheted all the way across this top edge. And what I'm left with is here's where I was single crocheting across the top, and then I met with the single crochets I've already done along this edge, and I slip stitched into it and tied off my yarn. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to basically add a border, and I'm just going to single crochet all the way around the blanket, and I think I'm going to do it 2 times with probably 2 different colors. And then that's it. That is this whole blanket. I will show you again. I will show you the end result when I'm finished. So I actually ended up single crocheting around the entire border 3 times. I did 1 pass with each color I used, the dark, the light, and the green. And here's the final blanket. I already tucked all my ends and she's ready for my best friend's baby. I hope I explained everything well enough for you guys, but if you ever have any questions, you can just comment and I will answer to the best of my abilities. Thank you so much for watching.